a great place to spend the day with your family. Big things for little kids to do. I love Action Park because it's so beautiful.
Race like a pro. It's great. These are the most amazing rides in the world. I love it here. I love it. I love it here. Action Park.
Wonder why water parks are actually this strict now? It's simple, really. I mean, all you have to do is think about it. Water parks are no exception to this. Why do you think gas pumps have a no smoking sign? Why do elevators have weight limits? Why do Tide Pods have a do not eat warning on them? Damn it, because this is America. Nation run on cheap internet likes, Chick-fil-A, and Shark Week, where freedom meets stupid people. Trigger warning to any international viewers out there, but honest to God, this water park was an actual thing in America. So buckle up. So it was the mid-70s, and this story is going to circulate around one individual man, Gene Mulvihill. In the 1970s, he was the owner of a company called Mayflower Securities. The Wall Street guy. He was doing the pump and dump stuff that they were doing back then with those penny stocks. Gene, he gets kicked off of Wall Street after a few years. He's in his mid-40s. He was basically bullshitting people. He was selling securities to people of companies that have already gone belly out. In case you're stupid, not saying you are, he's a fraud. So Gene Mulvihill packed up all of his stuff, left Wall Street, and decided that he was going to now get into the real estate business. And he bought 2 ski resorts in Vernon, New Jersey. That's right, New Jersey. America's New Jersey.
He's Jersey. He skis in his jeans.
Vernon's a country town, 20,000 people. Now, it's pretty ideal land. It's country land because he has 2 ski resorts. It's only 50 miles outside of New York City, and the only significant attraction there is a park called Way Yonder. So competition, minimal. But Vernon was on the up and up. You see, Hugh Hefner, remember him? He opened a Playboy Bunny resort there. So, in this small, sleepy little ski town, that's essentially what caught his eyes to invest in that area. It's the tried and true American business model, baby. Hot women are gonna be there. Fuck yeah! So Gene Mulvihill now owns 2 ski resorts in New Jersey, but there's one little issue that you may not know about New Jersey. Winter months are a little short when there's snow on the ground. So you have all this land that's only being used for a few months of the year. What are you gonna do with it in the summer months? In 1978, Action Park was open for business. One of the first amusement/water parks built in America by a crazy Wall Street shunned egotistical man with unlimited funneled money from investors. What could possibly go wrong? So Action Park had 3 sections to the park itself. You had the Alpine Center, which is where they put a bunch of slides going down the ski mountain, where you'd ride cheap-ass scooters, just you and gravity. You had Water World, which is all the slides and tubing and the water stuff. And then you had Motor World, which was all the bumper boats, the cars, the go-karts, all that stuff, conveniently right next to the large plethora of alcohol, right next to Motor World. The organization is very understandable. Right down the middle, that split the park in half, was a major highway in New Jersey. There's one thing that beats the quality of the landscape is the rides. To get you to truly grasp how crazy Gene Mulvihill is, I wouldn't be doing this justice if the first ride we didn't talk about was the Cannonball Loop. You see this? How long did it take me to draw that? That was the actual design that Gene Mulvihill gave his engineers. Gave it to him on a cocktail napkin. No water parks are doing that. Like, there's a reason. But Gene was a dreamer. Dreamer Gene. He was just like, hey, kids that work for me. What are you, 16? Perfect. I'm gonna give you $100 to slide down this slide and not die. Because you see, we put in all these sandbags that were supposed to emulate human bodies, but some reason they kept coming out with their heads detached. That was an actual example of Gene's logic. So one or two kids would go down this loop-de-loop. One would go through just fine, then another one goes down and he never comes out. Turns out, during the loop, he got stuck on the top of the loop, so they had to build a door on the roof of the loop so they can extract people. And then there was another kid who went down the slide. I guess he face smashed the top of the slide, broke a bunch of his teeth that got lodged into the plastic and stayed there, came down face covered in blood, and then more kids went down and they would go into the teeth, like into their back, like into it, dude, like a fucking Jigsaw movie. Next Waterworld ride. So in modern times, you probably assume, like, when you think of Six Flags, you're like, oh, well, those rides are probably designed by, you know, MIT students or Harvard engineers or whatever. Not at Action Park. They were mostly designed in-house, and a lot of them were done by Gene Mulvihill. And yes, 100%, he took ride advice from people without engineering degrees to help him build it. So knowing all that, essentially, a pitch for a new ride at Action Park went something like this. I got it. Got this guy, right? And he goes into the ball. We put wheels on the ball, so it's balls on the ball. We put them on PVC pipe, and then we roll them down the fucking mountain, man. Bringing us to our next ride, the man in the ball in the ball. So luckily this ride's gonna be able to teach you where the line gets drawn for Gene Mulvihill. Now this ride was not made available to the public, but it was tested, and here's what happened. A giant submarine looking ball, which had a bunch of wheels around it, would get rolled down a PVC pipe track down an entire fucking mountain face. One kid tested it out. He went into the ball, they rolled it down, and one of the tracks broke, and he just started rolling down the mountain. All the way, he rolls across the interstate that separates the amusement park, and he lands into a fucking water ravine thing across the highway. He didn't die, but it's good to know where Gene draws the line. Next Waterworld ride. This slide's gonna sound pretty tame because it kinda was, but they had the idea to put a bunch of warehouse rollers onto a slide and shoot you down the slide on a scooter, like this plastic thing, into a pool of water. Not bad, not bad. Two little caveats. Most of the time you would forget going down the slide to pull your slide up. So by the time you get to the water, you just right into the water, like impact face to the water. This did cause a few injuries, but that's not even what this ride was really known for. Apparently, under the ride were thousands of beehives. So they're just getting, like, you're waiting in line for the ride and just getting stung like fucking crazy. Jesus Christ, Gene. Last Waterworld ride. The Tarzan swing was like the mecca of Action Park. It's where all the kids hung out. You hold onto a rope and you just swing into the water, so no big deal. The only issue is that the spring water is very cold. So there was actual cases of people getting shock, hypothermia, cardiac events in this body of water because they don't know that they're about to dive into an ice cold pool of water. It's spring fed water. And of course it was where egos were challenged, where most of the fights broke out because Jersey folks. But of course you had those bad actors who would, you know, jump off, be like, don't be a pussy, show us your tits. That's the Tarzan swing. Now there is some rides I did not mention. I want to move over to Alpine Center. If you want to learn more about these rides, you should watch the documentary on HBO MAX called Class Action Park. It's where I'm getting a lot of this information, and you really need to see it. Alpine Center. Pretty straightforward concept. They had this thing called the Alpine Slide. You get in this little cart, and they shoot you down the mountain. Turns and shit. And you can regulate your speed because you got a stick in the middle. That's the brake. Now what's kind of interesting is that this track was made out of three things: cement, fiberglass, and asbestos. Do you remember asbestos?
Mesothelioma is a rare cancer linked to asbestos exposure. You may be entitled to financial compensation.
That asbestos. Now, all potential future health concerns set aside, you gotta think about it. This was a cement track going down a mountain in summer, and people are just in the bathing suit. Action Park goers have actually said that you could get that bad boy up to 60 miles an hour because half the time the brakes didn't even work. So you're just rolling down there 60 miles an hour and you 1980s skivvies, which were way too high to begin with. I don't know what culture was then. God, the amount of rash from the cement and the heat. Later in the video, we are going to talk about someone who did lose their life on the Alpine slide. It was very tragic. But before we do so, we have to go across the highway to Motor World, the third and final section to Action Park. So according to previous Action Park goers, typical day at Action Park went as such. Get there in the morning, you'd go to Waterworld, maybe ride the Alpine slide, and then towards the evening, you got out of the water and you went to Motorworld. Motorworld is a section of the park that consists of a lot of motorized things. You got bumper boats, go-karts, motorboats, like miniature ones, these little tanks that shot tennis balls. It's where everyone wanted to go to end their day, because that's also where the beer was. The alcohol was where you would also operate recreational motor vehicles. Huh? But I'm an optimist, so I'm gonna go ahead and assume that alcohol did not in any way influence any bad decision making on that side of the pack. Here is 3 things that did in fact happen. There was a ride where you're driving around a tank in a cage and you shoot tennis balls. Once a tennis ball hits your tank, you are disabled for like 10 seconds. It's just like a game of like laser tag, I guess, with tanks. Some genius took no time at all to realize, how much funner would this be if I set the balls on fire? So they were shooting flaming balls at each other. A story on the documentary once stated that somebody driving these miniature boat rides where you just drive a miniature boat around a little pond, some kid was parking his boat at the dock and some other kid just straight up fucking drives right over him. Believe I can fly. The propeller inches from his neck, that could have decapitated him like some Final Destination shit. And the kid who drove it into the kid just got off and was like, heh. Fucking Jersey, man. So I know what you might be thinking at this. How the hell does an amusement park open to the public have such a high-risk environment for people to get injured and not be closed in a week like how it would be today? I mean, they were so careless about injuries. They had one little shack that was the infirmary. Their fix-all for all the injuries was this little Windex-looking bottle filled with alcohol and iodine. And there was so many fucks not given that they would even fuck with the injured people. They would have a ring in the infirmary that you had to stand in. And the spray hurt so much on people that if they managed to stay inside of the ring, they got like a free fucking pen. Okay. So the staff were assholes about injuries. They were all young, dumb, horny teenagers anyway. But it's a public park, open to the public, that you can get hurt at. Okay, let's talk insurance then. If you're a business owner or not, you should obviously know, yes, you are going to need insurance if you are going to be allowing the public to utilize your services. So luckily, Gene Mulvihill acquired insurance from a company called London and World Assurance. Obviously allowed the state to issue permits to allow him to have the park. A very lucrative insurance company owned by Gene Mulvihill. This dude started an insurance company in the Cayman Islands that he was funneling money from Action Park into. So the money he was paying to the insurance company was just him paying himself.
Last step, integration, allows clean money to re-enter the mainstream economy and to benefit the original criminal.
He wasn't insured! So what happened when people actually tried to sue Gene Mulvihill for big injuries? Well, for one, Gene had this mind-blowing idea. No matter what somebody is suing for, never settle. Have it go all the way up the courts as deep as possible. Gene would even show up to some of the trials. And Gene became so notorious to never settling his cases, lawyers stopped working with Action Park people, trying to sue the resort for an injury they experienced, whether it be a broken arm, a broken neck, anything that required them to be hospitalized. Gene never budged. Now, there was a few times that Gene lost the case, and he just wouldn't fucking pay him. He would have U.S. Marshals show up to the park to collect money to the point where he would train his managers that if the U.S. Marshals showed up, just take him out to the back safe and give him money to pay the clients. Friendly reminder, folks, this is a real place and this happened. Now, as the park became more popular, popularity equals a larger volume of people. Larger volume of people means more bad shit can happen. Yes, people died at Action Park. Person to lose their life drowned in the attraction known as the wave pool. Water was very murky. You'd have hundreds and hundreds of people in this wave pool. And it's a freshwater pool. In the ocean, it's not like you go under. Because of the salt, it increases your buoyancy and you can usually stay above the water. Not in freshwater. Science and shit. So towards the end of this wave pool, it is far past your shoulders. I think it was as high as 6 feet. Somebody drowned in there. The lifeguards tried to resuscitate him, but he died at the park. Like, understand they had a practice where they would shut off the wave pool just to, I don't know, see if there's a corpse down there in the water. Like dead and shit. And that's not even the only person that lost their life at a wave pool. A second person lost their life the same way. Another death that occurred was the kayak experience. Now, how they made this kayak experience is that they had fans deep underwater that would blow air to create rapid light conditions. I guess one of the fans wasn't grounded properly, and a kayaker flipped over and touched one of the ungrounded fans and got straight up electrocuted. Now this is tragic, so there's no jokes to really be made about this because it's tragic. What the fuck, Gene? This final death I'm going to talk about is the most notorious death that happened, and it's really what shined a light on the malice of Gene Mulvihill. A 20-year-old by the name of George decided to spend a summer day at Action Park. He decided to go down the infamous Alpine Slide. There's a famous sharp corner at the Alpine Slide where if you do not hit your brake, you go off the sides. George failed to engage his brakes, and he was launched very, very far off of the track, and his head impacted a sharp-cornered rock near the track. He was hospitalized for a few days and put into a coma, where he was later pronounced deceased. Now, this lawsuit got a lot of attention to the public. Now, the mother of George decided to sue Gene Mulvihill and Action Park for the loss of her son, George. I shit you not, the defense of Gene Mulvihill was George died by impacting a rock 25 feet away from the Alpine Slide. So it was not, in fact, the Alpine Slide that killed him. Swear to fucking God. Not just that, but he said that because George had worked at Action Park in years prior, not that summer, the death wasn't reported to the state because he was not considered a public person at Action Park. He considered him an employee, where all compensated bullshit would have just gone through London and World Insurance, Gene's company. The newspapers were also arguing he was an employee, it was raining, and it was nighttime. None of those are true. Gene? I'm starting to think you're an asshole. In fact, 157% asshole. The reason he was able to get away with so much is because we're in Vernon, New Jersey, a small nothing town. How much economy do you think that amusement park is bringing? Obviously, Gene had paid off public officials, zoning officers, anybody he can pay off to keep the park open. Whether it be comping out seasons passes, trips to the spa, buying houses for people. My ear itched. He was playing ball. That's the political bullshit of every generation. But as these accidents and lawsuits became more popular, the park started losing money. Less people wanted to go. More people were getting hurt. They knew that if they got hurt, they're fucked. Ultimately, that is leading to the downfall of Action Park, where it had a decent run. It actually closed up in 1998, and Gene Mulvihill passed away in 2012. The park was acquired by some other mountain company in New Jersey called Mountain Creek, and it just became your generic, safe water park. But in 2014, Gene Mulvihill's son bought the fucking place to capitalize on growing nostalgia of Action Park. Like, I kind of get it, capitalizing on nostalgia. It's really big right now because millennials are super sensitive. But I truly don't believe you're going to be able to capitalize on flaming ball tanks, upside down loops, kayak electrocutions, wave pool drownings. What the fuck? Subscribe and like. Did the ring light reflect on my sunglasses the whole time?
You look like fucking Weekend at Bernie's.